The left's new star, Zohran Mamdani, is a perfect fit for today's Democratic Party. He's a socialist. He has a long history of anti-Semitism and casually throws around, racist ideas such as taxing white neighborhoods. And now he's got another resume enhancer for the Democratic Party. He's a complete fraud. During the campaign, he touted his credentials as the first Muslim and South Asian elected official.
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding of the Palestinian struggle.
I also say this as the first South Asian elected official, the first Muslim elected official to ever run for mayor.
Me, someone who stands to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, someone who would also be the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in this city's history.
Yeah, but the New York Times did some actual reporting and found out they didn't always identify himself this way. According to the Times, on his college application at Columbia University, he identified himself as Asian and as Black and African American. As the Times notes, quote, Columbia, like many elite universities, used a race-conscious affirmative action admissions program at the time. Reporting that his race was Black or African American in addition to Asian could have given him an advantage. We asked about the application. Mamdani defended his choice to identify as Black. He was born in Uganda and said there wasn't an option for Indian Ugandans on the application. Mamdani was not accepted into Columbia, but he told the New York Times that he filled out all of the college applications the same way. But actual Black New Yorkers aren't buying any of these excuses. According to the New York Post, a longtime local who asked not to be identified said, quote, he's a fraud. He ain't no African American. And a Bronx resident named Joshua said, quote, he's a liar, point blank, period. Mamdani lost the Black vote to Andrew Cuomo in the primary, and given the scandal, the race for mayor is far from over. For more, let's welcome in New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. Mamdani is taking advice from Elizabeth Warren when he filled out his college application, I guess, and that's why he did what he did.
Look, I think nobody really knows who this guy is. I think that's the bottom line. He's only been a citizen for 7 years. He's been an assembly member, but somebody who was not really well known, only for a couple of years. And I think the more people learn about him, the more they are concerned. I mean, this is obviously somebody who will say or do anything to get elected or to get into college. But aside from that, it's his policies that are incredibly dangerous. I mean, he wants to turn New York City into a little communist Cuba. He wants to seize the means of production, which is right out of Karl Marx's communist playbook. He's somebody who wants to take over New York City supermarkets. I imagine he wants to ration food as well. I mean, this is somebody who is completely a leftist like we've never seen in New York, and we've had the likes of Bill de Blasio and others. It's really concerning. I think the more people get to know him, and I'm hopeful, more people get to know him, the more we'll make sure that he is rejected at the ballot box come November.
Yeah, that's right. Well, November's a long way away. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us, of course. A disturbing new poll reveals that the growing anti-Semitism on the left in 2017, 42% of Democrats supported Israel, but that has completely flipped, and now just 12% of Democrats support the Jewish state. So unfortunately, it's not surprising Democrats elected Mamdani to represent them. He has a long history of saying things like this.
Business as usual cannot continue any longer. It is so important that we do not cede any ground to apartheid. You don't have to go to Gaza to stand with Gaza. You can stand with Gaza by taking action right here in New York City.
And when asked recently if he would condemn calls to globalize the Intifada, he refused.
Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech.
Wow. Congresswoman, how concerned should Jewish New Yorkers be if this man is elected mayor?
And it goes much further. He wouldn't even put his name on a resolution commemorating a remembrance for the Holocaust. I mean, that's how extreme he is. It is really sad. It's scary, and I imagine for particularly our Jewish friends and neighbors here in New York City, when they've seen anti-Semitism skyrocket here in the city of New York, and sadly, New York leads the nation in terms of anti-Semitic incidents and hate crimes. And we saw what happened on our college campuses at Columbia University, at NYU, at others, and yet we're going to have a mayor who is certainly not going to take the side of the Jewish people, not even take a side, but just condemn this type of activity and really stand up and hold these institutions accountable, make sure our cops are empowered to do their jobs if there's violence that comes or hate crimes that are conducted. That's my concern more than anything, because he already wants to get rid of the police.
Yeah.
He's already saying he wants to defund our police, and the police are responding by saying they're going to leave the city. And so if we see more cops retire from our city, we're already down at least 7,000 cops from where we were on September 11, 2001. More cops being driven out by this city. You know, he's open about being a defund the police guy. But really what they've been doing in New York City for the last few years is actually driving them out and not replacing them. So really it's the same thing. They just don't call it defund the police anymore. So I'm very concerned about somebody like this who's not going to take crimes, whether it's against our Jewish neighbors or anybody else in our city, seriously, and certainly concerned about somebody who's not going to condemn anti-Semitism as we've seen on our streets and in our college campuses.
Congresswoman, Mamdani also seems to be prioritizing illegal aliens over New Yorkers. Here's what he said recently.
And unlike the current mayor, I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. We have to stand up and fight back. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to assist ICE agents.
Congresswoman, if Mamdani is elected mayor and obstructs ICE officials from doing their job, he may be in for a rude awakening from President Trump.
In his nomination speech, said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zohran Mamdani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully.
Congresswoman, as funny as it is there a danger in the president elevating Mamdani? I mean, this guy seems to be running against Donald Trump rather than any of the other mayoral candidates.
Well, that's what they do in New York City. But people should appreciate what President Trump has done for our city since taking office. He has deported thousands of criminals, gang members, drug traffickers. The migrant shelters that the taxpayers were funding to the tune of billions of dollars have started to shut down. The Floyd Bennett Field, our national park in Brooklyn that was turned into a migrant encampment, has also been closed. I did a Freedom of Information Law request, and we found 16,000 crimes committed by about 4,000 migrants that were in these shelters being funded by the taxpayers. And the majority of them were actually one of the top 7 felonies. So President Trump has stepped in here and has made our city safer. And if we're going to have a mayor like this guy who's going to come in and not cooperate with ICE, not allow them to be in Rikers Island to actually just, hand over criminals, and then they go and complain about the ICE raids.
Right.
We wouldn't need ICE raids if the city cooperated and just turned over the criminals upon arrest. It's as simple as that. You don't want ICE raids? Then just cooperate and turn over the bad guys. Don't release them back onto the streets.
Absolutely. Congresswoman, pivoting quickly, I want to get your thoughts on the big, beautiful bill. You've had a very busy week on the Hill this past week, and this is now the law of the land. Tell us a little bit about how New Yorkers are going to benefit from this legislation, and will its effects help swing New York in the right come 2026?
Well, I was happy to join President Trump yesterday for that bill signing. As a House Ways and Means member, the tax portion is what I focused a lot of my time on. This is going to benefit New Yorkers. Number one, we're getting the SALT deduction back. It is now quadrupled. That is significant. The Democrats in New York have hammered our residents with property taxes, income taxes. We're giving people more of their hard-earned money to keep in their pockets by giving them that SALT deduction so they don't have to pay twice. That's number one. Number two, seniors in our city are going to benefit tremendously. 88% of seniors across the country, about 51 million of them, are going to see their tax liability on Social Security eliminated because we're giving that deduction at the end of the year that will cover whatever you paid in Social Security. Again, we had to do it this way because we can't change Social Security law. So the Democrats are already trying to act like we didn't take care of that no tax on Social Security? We did. We just had to do it with a deduction at the end of the year. But again, 88% of our seniors will benefit from that. There are other substantial things. If you are a tipped worker, if you work overtime, if you are a working American, middle-class family, or senior citizen, you benefit from this bill. This bill was never focused on the billionaires and the millionaires like the Democrats claim. It's focused on the hardworking Americans that get up every day, they work hard, and you know what? They pay taxes, they try to care for their family. They were slammed by Biden inflation and the Democrats in states like mine.
Yeah.
And once again, President Trump is delivering relief. Last time, he gave an across-the-board income tax cut, which is now permanent. The child tax credit is increasing. The standard deduction is increasing further. You know, he has done tremendous things, and people are going to see the economic benefit and also the job creation. That's going to give Americans opportunity to move up and their wages increase as well.
Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, Raymond, listen, I don't know if Mamdani is the face of the Democrat Party. I would like to point out Andrew Cuomo was a factor in him winning.
Yes.
But, I mean, Eric Adams isn't polling well, and he's the guy that's painted himself as a moderate.
Well, but this whole idea of calling himself African-American, you know, Adams came out and said to use this for personal gain is deeply offensive, okay? But they can hammer that out. I think it may be the least offensive thing Mamdani has done. I'm more concerned about he majored in Africana studies, having been born in Uganda, and he's an avowed communist. I mean, these are the problems with this guy. Nitpicking over how he identified himself on a college, DEI, trying to get in under the DEI tent. You can hardly blame the guy for taking advantage of what's there.
Yeah.
But the record is horrible. His avowed and stated purpose and what he means to do in this city would unravel an already unstable situation. I mean, we can't walk out of this studio without somebody coming up to you and smelling weed and having, purses and phones snatched. It's really scary out there. This is not the unstabilizing or destabilizing force that you need.
Kaylee, he's got terrible ideas. He's got a bad record. Apparently he lies, but he has one thing that most Democrat politicians don't. He's got the riz. He's got charisma. And so when we're looking at what is the Democrat identity, who leads them moving forward, how important is that to have that ability to connect with people with a smile and a handshake?
It is important, and I think that's a big part of the reason why he was able to win over so many young New Yorkers.
Yeah.
If you look at how he was able to motivate young adults to turn out, that's a big part of the reason why so many establishment Democrats, instead of running for the hills when they look at this guy, are actually leaning into his campaign and endorsing him now in the general, because they know they're struggling among young Gen Zers my age. But if they think that he's the solution, he's not.
Riley, quickly, what are your thoughts?
Well, you say that he has the riz. I think President Trump also has the riz.
Absolutely.
And I think that was made very clear on November 5th, especially by younger voters. Kaylee and I were talking prior to sitting here at this table today about how younger voters especially, they see this, and yes, of course, there is a portion, especially those that went to these super liberal academic institutions that support this ultimately. But younger people, I believe we're reaching a point where we see this. We see his platform. We see the things that he's saying, whether that is taxing white neighborhoods, whatever it is. There's this video going around of him right now eating with his hands, claiming to be from a third world country, whatever it is. We see this and we recognize the problem with it. And on the other hand, we see President Trump and the authenticity, and I think that's something that appeals to younger people.
Yeah, apparently pandering and grifting has a radical new face.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.